Let's go live to the Optus CEO now, Stephen Roux.
The 18th of September. And within this process, a technical failure impacted 000 calls. As has been reported, this was in relation to a firewall upgrade. This resulted in the failure of a number of 000 calls in South Australia, the Northern Territory and Western Australia. The loss of the lives of 3 people, 2 in South Australia and 1 in Western Australia, impacted 000 calls. As has been reported, this was in relation to a firewall upgrade. This resulted in the failure of a number of 000 calls in South Australia, the Northern Territory and Western Australia. The loss of the lives of 3 people, 2 in South Australia and 1 in Western Australia, is absolutely tragic. I would again like to extend my deepest condolences to their families and friends, and I promise that we will fully cooperate with any and all investigations in relation to this. In terms of our own investigation into the technical failures, I can confirm that this is ongoing, and I will be fully transparent as we establish the facts of the matter. In this regard, I have some new information to share with you. I would like to address the rightful question about the length of the outage and how we were alerted to this. The system upgrade that took place in the early hours of Thursday morning, around 12:30 a.m, was a regular upgrade. When the upgrades and changes were implemented, initial testing and monitoring did not indicate there were any issues with calls connecting. Normal calls were connecting as they should, and call volumes at a national level did not raise any red flags. There was a technical failure in the system, and further, there were no alarms to alert us that some emergency calls were not making it through to emergency services. We became aware of the severity of the incident when a customer contacted us directly at around 1:30 p.m. on Thursday. We were further notified by South Australian Police shortly thereafter at around 1:50 p.m. Once notified, we stopped the upgrade, restoring 000, and began to confirm with relevant stakeholders such as police and other regulatory and government agencies and departments that we had experienced an outage impacting 000. We also confirmed that once we had the call details, that we would be commencing welfare checks. Welfare checks commenced later that evening and into the following day, Friday. And the delay in this, or the time in this, is due to the complexity of pulling records from the network. During the course of those welfare checks, we were advised by 3 households that there had been loss of life. While I am not able to comment in more detail regarding these individual situations, as it is more appropriate for other agencies, you have my commitment that Optus will share any new information that is appropriate for us to share as we know more. I would now like to comment on our notifications to regulatory and government agencies and departments. While communication with regulatory and government agencies, including police, commenced in relation to the outage on Thursday, the communication of fatalities confirmed through welfare checks was not until yesterday. Once we had this information and were confident of its accuracy, we shared this with our board, with the ACMA, the federal government and other bodies. What I have asked my team to look into is what operational notifications could and should exist between retailers and the emergency services when there is a welfare check that determines a death has occurred. I will update further on this as I am able to establish the facts. I am sorry that the lack of this process led to the late notification of the Premiers and Chief Ministers. And while there was an intention was to ensure an earlier awareness of our intention to speak to the media, my team did end up making contact at roughly the same time. That said, I reiterate my belief that there should be a formal notification process in these instances, and I've asked my team to look into that urgently. This was a complex situation where Optus was keen to be sure the facts that were emerging and believed to be true, and at the same time, we did not wish to delay public notification any further. I also want to reiterate that we take full accountability for the technical failure, and that we were unaware of this for a period of time, which is an unacceptable gap in time. I will ensure is fully investigated. I now want to make you aware of the fact that we have had 2 complaints referred to us by the Telecommunications Industry Ombudsman. Both surround 2 individual calls to the Optus contact centre made on Thursday morning, where they complained that the 000 service was not working. Early review suggests that we had not handled these calls as would be expected. I will be able to say more about these in due course, but I do want to be transparent that we now know we were informed by 2 individuals that they could not connect into 000, and this information was not surfaced with the relevant escalation at that time. We will be working with the TIO on these complaints, and I will provide more details in due course. We are also conducting a review of all calls to our contact centres during the time of the outage. I would like to conclude this update with my confirmation that Optus will be appointing an independent person to lead a review into this entire incident from every aspect. I hope to confirm that person in coming days, but need to speak with relevant stakeholders both internally and externally to confirm prior to my announcement. I intend to update you daily as more information becomes known. Thank you.
So can you confirm what time on Thursday morning that call first came in?
Thursday morning, yes, into the
yes, into the call centre.
I believe around 9 o'clock.
9 a.m.
Correct.
And was the second call, so 2 calls, when did that occur?
I'll confirm the exact time. Let me do that in my update tomorrow.
You said Premiers and Chief Ministers weren't notified because there wasn't a formal notification process. Isn't it just common sense to let leaders know when people have died in their seats?
We spent the day confirming the facts, and I wanted to make sure the facts before we inform relevant agencies, bodies, and before I made a statement, which I made yesterday.
Did Optus withhold names and addresses from police?
The numbers were provided to the police.
The South Australian Premier made it clear in his statements that you provided suburbs and nothing else until he called you, and after he called you, that changed.
I certainly spoke with the Premier, but again, let me confirm the exact details with you.
Is it possible there might be more deaths reported?
I'm not aware of any other deaths.
All the welfare checks have been completed?
They have.
There have been no further incidents other than deaths?
I'm not aware of any other deaths that occurred.
Will you compensate the families of who have lost loved ones?
That's not a matter for today. The matter for today is to ensure that we continue to update you on the situation.
Why is it not a matter for today?
Because the moment at time is all about getting information, making sure we have all the facts and information, sharing it with you transparently.
Why didn't you let the public know as soon as you knew the 000 calls weren't getting through?
We wanted to, as I said, we want to get the facts of the information together. We made sure that we...
that's life or death. That's life or death if people aren't getting 000 calls
Once we were aware of the 000 calls coming through, we stopped the process and reinstated the 000.
It was hours before you told the public. It was hours before you told the public.
The 000 had been stopped at that stage, and we were focused then on the welfare checks.
When you say 000 stopped...
Sorry, sorry, my apology. Thank you for correcting me. The upgrade was stopped and the 000 was restored. Thank you.
What do you know, or is there any idea as to why the access to 000, which should be the most accessible service in Australia, no matter which provider you're with, was knocked out by this?
So as I said, it was during an upgrade to a firewall upgrade. When we have the exact information, I will share that with you. That is part of our internal investigation at the moment.
How long did it take that 000 call to be restored? Sorry, I might have missed that.
Sorry, as soon as we were aware of it, we stopped the upgrade and was restored straight away.
Just to be
So
clear,
what is that period though?
It's minutes.
the outage began around, well, the upgrade happened at 12:30 on
Correct.
Thursday morning.
Correct.
So we can assume that 000 stopped working at that point in time. And it wasn't until 1:30 p.m. that afternoon that a customer contacted you and you were aware. So that means it was 13 hours.
That's correct.
Is that Eastern time, those times?
Yes, it is.
Do you think you've breached your obligations under law to ensure emergency calls are going through?
That will be part of the investigation that we will do.
When did you find out this story?
I was aware there had been an outage pretty soon after we were aware.
The Communications Minister said today that she's staggered by the way that you have communicated this to the federal government and the 3 state and territory governments. What do you say to that?
What we spent the time doing once we were aware of the outage, once we were doing the welfare checks, was establishing the facts. As soon as the facts were known to us, we reached out, as I said in my statement, to the relevant agencies.
Why has the South Australian Premier, for example, had to contact you directly?
As I said, we had been in touch with the relevant police agencies. We made the Premier's office aware that I was making a press statement around the same time as I made the press statement.
They're very unhappy that you made that press statement at that same time without giving them enough time to act on it.
Now, that's why I said during my statement that we're keen to look at the processes when a welfare check occurs and an individual has lost their life. What is the process that is, should and could be in place to ensure that everybody's informed in that case?
So you think there needs to be a process put in place, not a courtesy call or a common sense call to notify authorities and not hold a press conference at very late on a Friday when stories die?
The press conference was held at the time that we had the information that could be shared with the public.
Do you concede now Optus should have told everyone that when you realised there was a problem with 000 and not wait and at least tell the public that?
Once we were aware of the issue with 000, the time that we spent was in looking at why that had occurred, but also in ensuring that we performed the welfare checks. Once we were aware of the information, we then informed, as I said, the relevant parties, and I wanted to make sure that we were very transparent and told the public what had occurred.
But you knew for a fact that 000 wasn't working. Was that not something that people deserved to know as soon as you knew that?
000 had been restored, and the focus was on the welfare checks.
To clarify, when did you exactly find out about this outage? If it was 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, the company had already found out.
Shortly afterwards.
How long?
It was shortly afterwards.
It was 29 hours later, though, that you held the press conference. So in that period of time, you conducted 600 welfare checks. You found out 3 people had died. At what point did you know 3 people had passed? Was that by lunchtime Friday? Just trying to establish
We were establishing facts during the time. Once the facts were known, we informed the relevant agencies, and then, as I said, I wanted to be transparent.
Have you or anyone else from Optus spoken to the families other than that initial welfare check?
The welfare check was performed at a point in time. I will reach out to the families.
How many people were conducting the welfare checks? There's at least 600 calls to be made.
I don't have the exact number. Let me, as I said, let me get back to you on that.
So have you contacted
Every single one? Have your people contacted every single one of those people who make the 000 calls?
A welfare check is made in the event that we are not able to reach the person. The process is to pass that on to the relevant police in the state, and they then make the calls.
600 people.
My understanding is that that is complete.
To be clear, have you reached out to the families directly?
I haven't at this stage reached out to the families. My focus has been on this at the right time, and it has to be at the right time. I will do that.
What did Optus learn from the 2022 incident? Because the Communications Minister said that Optus hasn't acted on key recommendations from the Bean Review?
That will be part of the investigation that we will undertake.
How recently has Optus conducted outage tests to make sure the backup network comes online so customers can dial 000?
I don't have that information to
You
hand.
don't know when the
I
most
don't
recent
have that
tests?
specific information to hand.
What about fire? Obviously the focus has been on ambulance services, but do you know about calls that were made for fire incidents or police-related incidents?
We will ensure that we conduct a thorough review of all the calls that were made. I don't have that information to hand, but we will obviously be doing that as part of any investigation.
Do you wish that you'd let the public know as soon as you knew that this catastrophic failure had happened?
It was very important to establish the facts. It was very important to focus on the welfare checks.
For the company or for the people?
For everybody. And at the point in time that the welfare checks had been concluded and we had the information, that was when it was the right time to share.
Is the biggest technical failure that you don't have monitoring in your systems that alerts you to a single point of the network being down, like 000? Because obviously the network was fine. People were ringing, family, friends. There was no problem with the phone network. It was only 000 calls. You don't have any way of monitoring that. Again, that will be part of the investigation, which is why I do want to come back on a regular basis and inform you as more information comes today.
The Union for the Communication Workers says that as part of the review, Optus must examine every aspect of its systems, including its reliance on outsourcing and contracting for critical services. When you outsource essential safety functions, you increase the risk of failure. Do you accept that?
What I can assure you is that we will be doing a thorough, independent review into all aspects of
Have you listened to those 2 calls that came through to the call centre yourself?
I haven't personally, but senior members of my team have.
What have they told you that those calls were like? What did they describe them as?
Again, we will update you further at a later point in time.
Was it the one person who took those 2 calls?
Let me again update you with all the facts on that.
To clarify, what was done after the 2023 outage to ensure this wouldn't happen again? Were those recommendations implemented?
I'm sorry, once again, I can assure you that will be part of the investigation that will be done.
Surely you know whether those recommendations were implemented though.
I would like an investigation done to confirm all aspects.
The federal government says they weren't implemented, which is why this has happened.
Again, that's why I have asked for an independent review to be done.
In June, after the news of the $100 million fine because of sales practices, I asked you if Australians could trust Optus again. Can Australians trust Optus?
What Australians can know is that I will always be transparent with them, and I'll always ensure that in this case what has occurred, that I'll be open and transparent, which is why I'm standing here today, which is why I'll stand here again tomorrow.
How can you say that you'll be open, and how can we trust that when you haven't been open and you haven't been transparent?
Well, what I would say to you is that I held a press conference yesterday at a point in time when I had established the facts. What I also have said to you is that I will not do an internal investigation. We will get an external review done of all aspects of this. And I've also said that I will share the facts as and when I know them, and that is why I'm standing here today with new facts, and I'll continue to do that.
The 3 people who lost their lives, do you know anything more about them and whether their deaths were a direct result of not being able to get through to 000?
Yeah, it's not for me to comment specifically on the families, and again, when we have all the information, we will share that with you.
Do you give an undertaking that if you learn of an outage of Optus or its access to 000 calls, that you will inform the public as soon as you know that? There will be an investigation done on this. There will be, I'm sure, many recommendations. Those recommendations you will be aware of, and those recommendations will be followed.
Do you have a rough breakdown of those 600 calls, which state those calls were made?
I don't have that with me here, sorry.
Why have you not contacted the 3 families?
It is appropriate. It is appropriate to do that at the right time, in my opinion.
Is this not the right time?
I will do that when it is the right time.
And are all the Optus executives at work today to handle this situation?
We've had all of the executive today have been involved in various aspects of this.
So, but they're not in the office, not on the ground around.
Some of them don't actually, aren't necessary in Sydney, so they've been in the relevant locations.
President's last questions. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.